So I'm in this diner, minding my own business. I always sit at the end, whatever it is. This guy comes out, he says, I don't agree with you. I said, okay, great. Like, what are you doing with me here? I said, what did you do? I was a teacher. Where were you a teacher? New York City. Retired. I said, you're retired, yeah. I said, so you must have a pretty good pension. I work for that pension. Don't be so defensive. I just said you must have a pretty good pension. And you moved to Florida. Yeah, and I don't like DeSantis either. What do you think of that? I said, I don't really care who you like. I'm making a point. You work in New York City. You probably get the best pension imaginable, even for public unions, for teachers. Then you move to Florida because it's a no-tax state. Because you don't want to pay the New York taxes that pay your pension. And then you come down here. I let this son of a bitch have it. I said, then you come down here. You don't like DeSantis because he's a conservative Republican. You ran your ass down here to enjoy the environment in Florida, and also because you didn't want to pay New York State income taxes. That's why you came down here. Tim Kaine, this guy's gotten dumber, nastier, and he always looks like he just fell out of bed as the years have gone on. Tim Kaine tells federal employees, ignore the Donald Trump offer to quit. Now, he happens to represent Virginia, which probably has more bureaucrats now than Maryland. It's always a race, and this is his constituency. Bureaucrats and people in the public dole. They've turned Northern Virginia into Maryland. And Northern Virginia's turned Virginia into Maryland. What's wrong with Maryland? A lot. Anyway, so here we are. Here he is. Don't take Trump up on the early severance and return. Why not? It's a trick. It's a trick. Tim Kaine doesn't think his voters should show up for work. No. Tim Kaine doesn't think his voters should consider early retirement. No. Tim Kaine doesn't think a single one of his voters working in the bureaucracy should be subject to removal. No. Tim Kaine is a jackass. Go.
So my message to federal employees who receive this is, yeah, the president has tried to terrorize you for about a week.
A long time ago I learned, when I was losing my hair, don't do the stupid part thing. You got people, like this, and they do this. They can't make up their mind as a host. He can't make up his mind where to put his hair. His hair goes back, his hair goes over. I mean, you can take pictures of it. It's actually funny. Hour to hour, it changes. Here's a guy. Look at where he puts his part. Why does he have a part? Look at his hair. He's a mess. I'm just saying. He's got no hair up here. He's got this going on, so he throws it back. And I'm supposed to take him seriously? Number one, I wouldn't take him seriously anyway. But look at him. Go ahead.
And then gives you a little sweetheart offer. If you resign in the next week, we're just going to pay you for doing nothing for the next 7 months.
So dummy doesn't even understand what the offer is. You have to show up for work immediately. I do, but I don't want to. No, you show up for work immediately. Okay? Immediately. And the issue of whether you accept the severance or not, it's on the table for a significant period of time. You don't have 1 week to make a decision. Go ahead.
Don't be fooled. He's tricked hundreds of people with that offer. If you accept that offer and resign, he'll stiff you just like he stiffed the contractors.
I tricked hundreds of people with that offer. Has he even read the offer? No. No. It seems to me it's a generous offer. I think it's 7 or 8 months of severance. In the private sector, maybe you got 3 months. I mean, if you're senior, maybe you get 6 months. You get it with pay. For the bureaucracy, and I know I was a temporary, employee in the bureaucracy. In the bureaucracy, your pension, and they may have even sweetened it more, you get a payment every single year. Not a little. If you've been in the bureaucracy 20 years, at 20 years you can retire. So if you go into government at the age of 25, you can retire at 45. A lot of people do, and then they work for defense contractors or other federal employees, so that's what they call double dipping. And you get medical coverage for the rest of your life. And what is your pension based on? Social Security? No. Remember I told you they have their own plan. And I don't know if they changed it. I don't remember if it's the last 3 years or last 2 years, but it's the average, listen to this, it's the average of the last, I think it's 2 years, but maybe it's 3 years, of your service in the federal government of your peak salary, the last 2 or 3 years, you get for the rest of your life. That's why a lot of people go into the government. They don't necessarily like the work. Maybe it's monotonous, depending on what they're doing. Where do you work? I work at the Department of Agriculture. How's it going over there? I don't know. I don't know crap about farming. Fruits, vegetables. I don't even like fruits and vegetables. Well, what are you doing at the Department of Agriculture? Nothing. I'm working from home. I'm moving paper. And don't tell me to show up for work. I can do nothing at the office, or I can do it here. I can do nothing, period. It doesn't matter where I'm located. Look, I'm being a little harsh, but some people deserve it. Fact of the matter is, the benefits are enormous. So you get people who, for instance, maybe they'll live in Maryland, which is a fairly high tax state. They'll live in Virginia, which has become a relatively high tax state. They'll retire in 20, 25, 30 years. I mean, think about retiring in 30 years. You're 55. You got a big life ahead of you. And what do? They move to a no-income tax state. Florida is filled with local, state, and federal bureaucrats who have retired, take the money that the taxpayers in these states are paying, these heavy tax states, they're subsidizing them to be in a no-tax state, in a no-income tax state. I mean, it's kind of perverse if you really think about it. I was next to a guy, may I digress for a moment? I think I will. So I'm in this diner, minding my own business. I always sit at the end, whatever it is. Some people are very friendly. This guy comes out, he says, you know, I don't agree with you. I said, okay, great. Like, what are you doing with me here? I said, what did you do? I was a teacher. Where were you a teacher? New York City. Mm-hmm. He's an old guy. He's retired. I said, you're retired, yeah. I said, so you must have a pretty good pension. I work for that pension. Hey, don't be so defensive. I just said you must have a pretty good pension. And you moved to Florida. Yeah, and I don't like DeSantis either. What do you think of that? I said, I don't really care who you like. I'm making a point. You work in New York City. You probably get the best pension imaginable, even for public unions, for teachers. Then you move to Florida because it's a no-tax state. Because you don't want to pay the New York taxes that pay your pension. And then you come down here, I let this son of a bitch have it. I said, then you come down here, you don't like DeSantis because he's a conservative Republican. You ran your ass down here to enjoy the environment in Florida, and also because you didn't want to pay New York State income taxes. That's why you came down here. And he walked away. He was upset with me. But this happens all the time.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.